The medical scanner hummed its final diagnostic tone, and then every alarm on Concordat station began screaming at once. Dr. Nina Cole sat frozen in the examination chair as red warning lights bathed the sterile white room in crimson pulses. She had undergone hundreds of medical scans in her career as a xenobiologist, but nothing had ever triggered a response like this. Security Director Velcross burst through the sealed doors with 6 armed guards behind him. His insectoid body was rigid with tension, mandibles clicking so rapidly that his translator device struggled to keep pace. His compound eyes fixed on the holographic display floating above Nina's examination pod, where a single number glowed in angry red, 9.1. "This cannot be accurate," Velcross said, his voice sharp despite the mechanical translation. "Run the scan again. Check every calibration. Something is malfunctioning." Nina stood slowly, keeping her hands where the guards could see them. "Director, what's wrong? What does that number mean?" Velcross turned his massive head toward her. For a creature without recognizable facial expressions, he somehow conveyed pure disbelief. "Dr. Cole, you have just scored 9.1 on the Predator Index. Do you understand what that means?" Nina shook her head. She had heard of the Predator Index during the diplomatic briefings, but only in passing. It was supposed to be a routine genetic screening that all new species underwent when applying for Concordat membership. "The Predator Index measures predatory capability," Velcross explained, his translator now catching up with his rapid speech. "It analyzes genetic markers for hunting efficiency, threat assessment, predatory instincts, and lethality. It has been refined over 12,000 years and tested on 1,700 species across the galaxy." "Okay," Nina said carefully. "And 9.1 is high?" "High." Velcross made a sound that the translator rendered as bitter laughter. "The highest score ever recorded belongs to Zichara of Carthol. Her species evolved on a death world where every creature is either predator or prey. They have 6 eyes that see in complete darkness, retractable claws that can slice through battle armor, and venom that paralyzes victims in seconds. Zichara herself is considered the greatest hunter in Concordat space. Her score is 7.2. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Nina felt her stomach tighten. "That's impossible. Humans aren't like that. We're peaceful. We came here for diplomatic integration, cultural exchange." "I am aware of your stated intentions," Velcross interrupted. "Your delegation has been nothing but pleasant since you arrived 3 weeks ago. Ambassador Brooks teaches poetry to our younglings. Your engineers share technology freely. Your chef synthesizes vegetable dishes for our communal meals. You smile. You laugh. You seem harmless." He gestured sharply at the display. "This says otherwise." Nina's mind raced through possibilities. Contaminated sample? Equipment malfunction? Some quirk of human genetics that the alien technology misinterpreted? "There has to be an explanation," she said. "Run it again. Test someone else. I volunteer for any additional screening you need." Velcross studied her for a long moment. "Very well. We will test your entire delegation. If this is an error, it will not replicate across multiple subjects." Ambassador Tyler Brooks arrived within minutes of being summoned. He was a calm man in his 50s with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes, exactly the kind of reassuring presence that made him perfect for first contact situations. He listened to Velcross's explanation without interrupting, then nodded. "Test everyone," Tyler said simply. "We have nothing to hide." Over the next 4 hours, all 23 humans on the diplomatic mission underwent the Predator Index scan. Nina watched from the observation deck as each result appeared on the central display. Her colleague Samuel Chin, 9.0. Engineer Melissa Park, 8.9. Cultural Liaison Austin Wright, 9.2. Chef Sophie Dunn, 8.7. Security Officer Ethan Ross, 9.3. Every single human scored higher than Zichara. The lowest human result was still nearly 2 full points above the previous galactic record. Velcross stood motionless as the final results compiled. Around him, other Concordat officials whispered in their various languages. Some backed away from the observation window. Others reached for communication devices, no doubt reporting to their home worlds. Nina approached the security director slowly. "I know how this looks," she said quietly. "But you need to understand something about humans. Yes, we evolved as predators. Our eyes face forward for depth perception while hunting. We have omnivorous teeth designed to tear meat. Our brains developed complex pattern recognition to track prey. All of that is true. Then your diplomatic mission is a deception," Velcross said flatly. No. Nina's voice was firm. It's evolution. Humans were hunters on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. We chased animals across grasslands. We learned to throw spears with deadly accuracy. We coordinated in groups to take down prey much larger than ourselves. But we also learned something else. What? We learned to hunt ideas instead of animals. We turned those same predatory instincts toward solving problems, building civilizations, exploring space. We didn't stop being predators, Director. We redirected what that means. Velcross was silent for a long moment. That is a comforting story, Dr. Cole. But the Predator Index does not measure philosophy. It measures capability. And your capability exceeds anything we have encountered. Tyler joined them at the window. His usual warm expression was gone, replaced by something harder. Director Velcross, I understand your concern. If our positions were reversed, I would be concerned too. But consider our actions, not just our genetics. We've been here for weeks. Have we threatened anyone? Have we shown aggression? Have we done anything except try to build bridges? That is precisely what concerns me, Velcross said. The most dangerous predators are the ones that make their prey feel safe. Before Tyler could respond, an urgent message flashed across the central display. It was from Carthel, transmitted on high-priority channels. The message was brief. Zichara requests immediate transport to Concordat Station. She wishes to meet these humans who score higher than a Carthel apex predator. Nina felt a chill run down her spine. Around the observation deck, officials whispered more urgently. This situation was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated. Velcross turned to face the human delegation fully. I am placing you under protective custody pending further evaluation. You will remain in the diplomatic quarter with full amenities, but you will not be allowed to move freely through the station until we understand what you are. We know what we are, Tyler said quietly. The question is whether you'll give us the chance to prove it. The emergency council chamber was packed with representatives from 40 different species. Velcross stood at the center podium, his mandibles tight with tension as holographic displays showed the impossible Predator Index results hovering above the assembly. Whispered conversations filled the air in dozens of languages, all expressing the same disbelief and fear. Ambassador Tyler Brooks walked to the speaker's platform with steady, measured steps. He carried no notes, no data pads, nothing except a calm expression that somehow made him seem more dangerous rather than less. Nina watched from the human delegation's seats, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Members of the Concordat, Tyler began, his voice clear and unhurried. I understand your concern. The numbers frighten you. They should. But let me explain what those numbers actually mean. He gestured and a holographic image of Earth appeared, slowly rotating above the assembly. Humans evolved on a world we call Earth. We were not the strongest creatures there. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or venom or natural armor. What we had was something different. The image shifted to show early humans running across an open plain, following a herd of large animals. We could run. Not sprint like some predators. We could run for hours. Days if necessary. We would pick one animal from a herd and follow it. The animal would run away, fast and powerful. But eventually it would have to stop to rest. We would not stop. We would keep coming. A counselor from the Tethys system, a creature resembling a floating jellyfish, spoke up. You exhausted your prey to death? Yes, Tyler said simply. We call it persistence hunting. Our bodies sweat to cool down while we run. Most animals cannot do this. They overheat. They collapse. We would track them for 20, 30, sometimes 40 kilometers. The prey would run until its body gave out. Then we would walk up to it and finish what we started. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Nina could see the fear spreading across faces, or what passed for faces among the various species present. Tyler continued. Our eyes face forward. This gives us depth perception. We can judge distances perfectly, which means we can throw objects with incredible accuracy. A human can throw a stone and hit a target from 30 meters away. We turn this into a weapon. We learn to make spears, arrows, anything that could fly through the air and strike prey from a distance. But you said you were peaceful, Velcross interjected. You said you came here for cultural exchange. We are peaceful, Tyler said. Now. But to understand what we are, you need to understand what we were. Nina stood up, and Tyler nodded for her to join him at the podium. She took a deep breath and activated her own data display. Images of extinct animals filled the holographic space. Massive woolly mammoths, giant ground sloths, cave bears twice the size of modern grizzlies. These creatures once lived on Earth, Nina said. All of them are extinct now. Humans hunted them. Not alone but in groups. We developed pack tactics that let us take down animals 10 times our size. We would surround them, throw spears from multiple angles and work together until the prey fell. She changed the image to show a timeline. Everywhere humans migrated on Earth, large animals disappeared within a few thousand years. We were too efficient. We hunted megafauna to extinction on every continent we reached. A counselor from the Vren collective, a species that resembled an armored tortoise, spoke in a trembling voice. You eliminated entire species? Yes, Nina said quietly. We did not understand conservation then. We only understood hunting. We made weapons from anything we could find. Sticks became spears. Stones became axes and knives. Bones became tools. We learned to use fire to drive prey into traps. We learned to communicate with complex language so we could plan hunts together. She pulled up another image showing human brain development. Our brains grew larger because hunting required intelligence. We had to track footprints across vast distances. We had to remember where prey would gather. We had to predict animal behavior and coordinate with other hunters. All of this made us smarter. Better at problem solving. Better at pattern recognition. You evolved to kill, Velcross said. It was not a question. Tyler stepped forward again. We evolved to survive. On Earth that meant hunting. But here is what you need to understand. Humans also learned to hunt abstract things. We hunted solutions to problems. We hunted knowledge. We hunted ways to grow food instead of chasing animals. That same drive that made us deadly predators also made us curious explorers and determined scientists. Pretty words, said a new voice from the entrance. But words mean nothing in a hunt. Every head turned as Zara entered the chamber. She was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with 6 glowing eyes arranged across her elongated skull. Her body was covered in thick chitinous plates that gleamed like polished metal. Retractable claws extended from her forearms, each one longer than Nina's forearm. She moved with fluid grace that spoke of perfect predatory efficiency. The chamber fell completely silent as Zara approached the podium. She studied Tyler and Nina with all 6 eyes, and Nina could feel the weight of that alien gaze measuring her from every angle. I am Zara, she said, her voice a deep rumble that the translators rendered with difficulty. For 12,000 years, my score on the Predator Index stood as the highest ever recorded. I have hunted on 80 worlds. I have killed prey that would terrify every species in this room. And now you tell me that these small, soft creatures score higher than me? Tyler met her gaze steadily. The scores say what they say. We did not come here to challenge you or anyone else. But you have challenged me, Zara said. By existing. By scoring impossible numbers. By claiming to be predators greater than a Carthal apex hunter. She turned to address the full council. I propose a test. A hunt simulation in the Concordat training grounds. If these humans truly deserve their scores, let them prove it. Velcross's mandibles clicked nervously. The hunt simulations are designed for apex predators. They are dangerous, even in controlled environments. Then it is a perfect test, Zara said. She looked directly at Nina. You, the scientist, you will hunt against me. We will track the same prey in the simulation. Whoever makes the kill first proves their worth as a predator. Do you accept? Nina felt every eye in the chamber turn toward her. Her mouth was dry, her heart pounding. Zara was a creature born to hunt, evolved over millions of years on a death world where only the most efficient killers survived. Nina was a scientist who studied alien biology and had never hunted anything more dangerous than Data. But she thought about humanity's history. About ancestors who faced down creatures far larger and more dangerous than themselves. About persistence and intelligence and the refusal to give up. I accept, Nina said. The Concordat training grounds stretched across 5 square kilometers of artificially generated terrain. Nina stood at the entry point, watching as technicians activated the simulation protocols. The landscape shimmered and transformed before her eyes. Rolling grasslands gave way to rocky hills, dense forests appeared in valleys, and a winding river cut through the center of the zone. The prey is a simulated Krethvan mountain runner, the chief technician explained. He was a small amphibious creature whose skin changed colors as he spoke. It weighs approximately 200 kilograms, can reach speeds of 70 kilometers per hour in short bursts, and has enhanced sensory organs. The simulation begins when both hunters enter the zone. First one to make a confirmed kill wins. Nina nodded, adjusting the tracking device strapped to her wrist. She wore simple clothing designed for movement, and carried only a basic scanning tool and a ceremonial hunting blade provided by the Concordat. No advanced weapons. No communication devices. Just her and the terrain. Across the starting area, Zichara prepared herself. The massive Carthel apex predator stretched her four arms, extending and retracting her claws in a rhythmic pattern. Her 6 eyes scanned the terrain with predatory focus. She wore nothing except a minimal harness that held her own tracking device. She needed no weapons beyond what nature had given her. Velcross stood between them at a safe distance. The simulation runs until one hunter succeeds or 24 hours pass. If you are injured, your tracking device will alert medical teams. Are both hunters ready? Ready, Shara growled. Ready, Nina said, her voice steadier than she felt. Begin. Nina ran into the grasslands as the simulation activated. She heard Zichara's heavy footfalls moving in a different direction, circling around to approach the prey from another angle. Nina focused on her breathing, settling into a comfortable pace. Not a sprint. A jog that she could maintain for hours. Her wrist device pinged with the prey's initial location, 2 kilometers northeast, moving through the open grassland toward the forest edge. Nina adjusted her course and kept running. She scanned the ground as she moved, noting the disturbed grass, the direction of bent stems, the subtle signs of something large passing through. 15 minutes later, she heard a roar echo across the valley. Zichara had found the prey. Nina changed direction, running toward the sound. She crested a small hill and saw the scene below. Zara was a blur of motion, her massive body impossibly fast as she closed the distance on the fleeing Krethvan. The simulated prey was fast, but Zara was faster. The apex predator lunged, claws extended. She caught the prey's hindquarters, tearing through synthetic flesh. Blood sprayed across the grass. But the Krethvan kicked with powerful legs, catching Zara in the chest and knocking her back. In that moment of separation, the wounded prey bolted toward the forest. Zara recovered quickly and gave chase, but the prey had already vanished into the dense trees. Nina watched the Carthel predator disappear into the forest after it, then she adjusted her own course. She did not follow directly. Instead, she noted the blood trail and began her own pursuit at a steady jog. The first hour passed. Nina maintained her pace, following the blood droplets that marked the prey's escape route. The forest was thick with undergrowth, but the wounded animal had crashed through it in panic, leaving a clear trail. Nina ducked under branches, pushed through bushes and kept moving forward. Never stopping. Never rushing. She could hear Zara somewhere to her left, moving through the forest with powerful strikes of her clawed limbs, tearing through obstacles rather than going around them. The Carthel was searching in a pattern, using her superior senses to scan large areas quickly. It was efficient for a short hunt, but Nina could already hear the frustration in Zichara's movements. 2 hours passed. The blood trail led up a rocky hillside. Nina climbed steadily, her human hands gripping the stones easily. She reached the top and scanned the area. The prey had rested here briefly. There were disturbances in the dirt where it had laid down. But it had not stayed long. The trail continued down the other side toward the river. 3 hours in, Nina reached the river. The blood trail disappeared at the water's edge. The prey had gone into the water to mask its scent and confuse pursuers. Nina smiled slightly. It was a smart move but not smart enough. She looked at the river flow, considered the prey's injured condition and made a decision. A wounded animal would not fight the current. It would go downstream, conserving energy. She ran along the riverbank, scanning for exit points. After a kilometer, she found fresh blood on the rocks. The prey had emerged here. Nina did not pause to celebrate. She simply noted the direction and continued following. 4 hours into the hunt, Zichara's roars became less frequent. The Carthel was still searching, still moving, but Nina could hear the exhaustion creeping into those sounds. Zichara had been built for explosive speed and overwhelming force. Her body was designed for short, brutal hunts. She was not designed for marathon pursuits. Nina, on the other hand, was barely breathing hard. She had settled into the rhythm that her ancestors had mastered over hundreds of thousands of years. 1 foot in front of the other. Eyes on the trail. Mind clear and focused. Her body temperature remained stable thanks to her efficient sweating system. Her legs showed no signs of fatigue. She could do this for another 10 hours if necessary. 5 hours in, the sun began to set. Nina activated the low-light mode on her scanner, but she barely needed it. The blood trail was still visible, and the broken branches showed the prey's passing clearly. She heard nothing from Zara now. The apex predator had either given up or was conserving energy for another burst of speed. 6 hours after the hunt began, Nina found the prey. It was huddled in a small cave, trembling with exhaustion and blood loss. The Krethvan's eyes were glazed with fatigue. It saw Nina approach and tried to stand, tried to run, but its legs could not support it anymore. Nina approached slowly, almost gently. She raised her ceremonial blade. "I am sorry," she said quietly, though the simulated creature could not understand. "But this is what humans do. We do not stop. We never stop." She made the kill quickly and cleanly. Her tracking device pinged with confirmation. The hunt was over. Nina walked out of the cave and found Zara sitting on a nearby rock, all 6 eyes watching. The Karthal's body was heaving with exhaustion, her chitinous plates dark with sweat equivalent. "You did not chase it," Zara said slowly. "You just followed. For 6 hours you just kept following." "Yes," Nina said simply. "That is what humans do." The council chamber was silent as Nina and Zara entered together. The Karthal apex predator moved slowly, still recovering from 6 hours of fruitless searching. Nina walked beside her, showing no signs of the exhaustion that should have come from such a prolonged hunt. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Zara moved to the center of the chamber and addressed the assembly. Her voice was quieter than before, thoughtful rather than aggressive. "I have hunted across 80 worlds. I have killed prey that would make your blood freeze. I believed I understood what it meant to be a predator." She turned to look at Nina. "I was wrong." Velcross leaned forward from his position at the council podium. "What did you learn, Zara?" "She did not hunt like I hunt," Zara said. "I'm fast. I'm strong. I have senses that can detect prey from kilometers away. I struck first. I drew blood. I should have won." She paused, and all 6 of her eyes focused on Nina. "But you do not just hunt. You never stop hunting. That is the difference." A counselor from the Meridian Cluster, a crystalline being that communicated through light pulses, asked the question everyone was thinking. "What does that mean? How is that different from normal predatory behavior?" Zara gestured with one of her clawed hands. "When I hunt, I chase. I use my speed and power to catch prey quickly. If the prey escapes, I search for it. If I cannot find it within a reasonable time, I give up and find different prey. This is how all predators I know operate. We expend energy in bursts. We rest. We conserve our strength for the next hunt." She looked at Nina again. "Humans do not work this way." She followed the prey for 6 hours without stopping. Not running at full speed but never resting either. When I was searching frantically, exhausting myself trying to locate the prey again, she was simply walking behind it. Step after step after step. The prey could run but it could not escape. Because she would never stop following. Tyler stood from the human delegation section. "May I add context to what Zara observed?" Velcross nodded and Tyler approached the central platform. He activated a holographic display showing human anatomy. "Zara identified our primary advantage, but let me explain the biology behind it. Humans have an ability called thermoregulation through sweating. Our bodies can cool themselves while we exercise. Most species cannot do this effectively. They overheat during prolonged activity. We do not." He changed the image to show a comparison between human and Karthal cardiovascular systems. "Our ancestors could run for 8 to 12 hours without stopping. Not fast but steady. The prey would run away in panic, using all its energy in explosive bursts. Then it would have to stop to cool down and rest. But we would still be coming. Always coming. The prey would run again, exhaust itself again, rest again. And we would still be coming." A counselor from the Outer Rim spoke up. "But this is just one advantage. How does this explain your impossibly high predator index scores?" Nina stepped forward. "Because it is not just about physical endurance. It is about how our brains work. Humans have cognitive flexibility that is extremely rare. During the hunt, the terrain changed constantly. Grassland to forest to rocky hills to rivers. Each terrain required different strategies. I adapted my approach every time without needing to stop and plan." She pulled up data from the hunt simulation. "When the prey entered the water to hide its scent, I did not waste time searching randomly. I thought about what a wounded animal would do. It would not fight the current because that takes energy. So it would go downstream. I predicted its behavior and I was correct. This is what human brains evolved to do: recognize patterns and solve problems in real time." Tyler added another display showing human social structures. "And humans do not hunt alone. We coordinate." Even in the simulation, Nina was just one person. But imagine if there were 5 humans hunting that prey. We would communicate. We would spread out. We would drive the prey toward each other. We would take turns chasing so no single human had to maintain pursuit the entire time. Our pack tactics are more sophisticated than any species the Concordat has documented. He pulled up images of primitive human tools. We also have something unique. We can turn anything into a weapon. A stick becomes a spear. A stone becomes an axe. Vines become rope for traps. Our hands can grip and manipulate objects with precision that most species lack. We do not need natural claws or venom. We create artificial versions that are often more effective. Tara spoke again, her voice carrying a note of something that might have been respect. When I saw her following the blood trail, I thought she was being inefficient. I thought she should search faster, cover more ground, use her time better. But she was not being inefficient. She was being inevitable. The prey could not escape because she would never stop. Not in 6 hours. Not in 12. Not in 24. She would follow until the prey died of exhaustion or she made the kill. That is not hunting as I understand it. That is something more terrifying. Velcross processed this information, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. So the predator index was correct. Humans score higher because they combine multiple predatory advantages that other species have separately. Endurance, intelligence, social coordination, tool use, and adaptability. Yes, Tyler said. But here is what you need to understand about humans now, not humans from our evolutionary past. We still have all these capabilities. Our biology has not changed. But we chose to redirect these instincts. We do not hunt animals anymore except for sport or necessity. Instead, we hunt solutions. He changed the display to show human achievements. Cities, spacecraft, art, science. We hunt cures for diseases. We hunt answers to mathematical problems. We hunt ways to explore space and understand the universe. We hunt knowledge and peace and progress. We did not stop being hunters. We learned to hunt different things. How comforting, said a voice dripping with sarcasm from the chamber entrance. A security officer rushed in, his blue skin flushed with urgency. Apologies for the interruption, but we have an emergency. The Vexnaroth have breached Concordat borders. 3 colony worlds are under attack. The chamber erupted into panicked voices. The Vexnaroth were known as raiders and conquerors who viewed all other species as prey. They had been quiet for decades, but when they attacked, they showed no mercy. Velcross tried to restore order. How many ships? 30 warships. They are overwhelming our defensive positions. Standard tactics are failing. They are treating our colonies like hunting grounds. The security officer's voice shook. They are killing everyone. Tara turned to Nina and Tyler. You said you hunt solutions now instead of prey. Can you hunt a solution to this? Tyler's expression hardened into something that reminded Nina of their ancient ancestors. We hunt problems, he said quietly. And the Vexnaroth just became our problem. The tactical command center filled with desperate reports as the Vexnaroth continued their assault. Holographic displays showed 3 colony worlds burning. The Concordat defense fleet tried to engage, but the Vexnaroth fought with savage efficiency that overwhelmed traditional military strategies. They did not just attack, they hunted. Velcross stood at the command table, his mandibles clicking frantically as he tried to coordinate the defense. Pull back the Third Fleet to defensive positions. Evacuate civilian populations from the outer settlements. Send reinforcements to. It will not work, Zara interrupted. She had been watching the tactical displays with all 6 eyes. The Vexnaroth are apex predators. They do not fight like soldiers. They fight like hunters. Your military thinks in terms of formations and defensive lines. The Vexnaroth think in terms of prey and kill zones. Tyler stepped forward from where the human delegation had been observing. She is right. You are fighting them the wrong way. Then how would you fight them, Ambassador? Velcross asked, frustration clear in his translated voice. Tyler looked at Nina, at the other humans in the room, and then back at Velcross. You would let predators hunt predators. Zachara's eyes brightened with understanding. You want to use human tactics against them. Not just tactics, Nina said, moving to the tactical display. Strategy. The Vexnaroth think they are the hunters and everyone else is prey. We need to change that perception. Velcross hesitated. You are diplomats and scientists. You have no military training, no warships, no. We have something better, Tyler interrupted. We have the ability to think like predators and the intelligence to plan like humans. Give us access to your fleet coordination, and let us show you what apex predators actually do when protecting their territory. The Concordat Security Council convened in an emergency session that lasted less than 10 minutes. The decision was simple: They were losing anyway, so they had nothing to lose by trying the human approach. Velcross gave Tyler and Nina full tactical authority over a strike force consisting of 15 Concordat ships and the human diplomatic vessel. Nina gathered the human delegation in a briefing room. There were only 23 humans total, but every single one understood what needed to be done. She pulled up the Vexnaroth attack patterns on the display. They are operating like pack hunters, she explained. Fast strikes, overwhelming force, and they move to the next target before defenders can respond. Classic predatory behavior. But they have a weakness. Security Officer Ethan Ross leaned forward. They assume everyone else will act like prey. Exactly, Nina said. Prey runs away. Prey tries to hide. Prey defends fixed positions and hopes the predator gives up. The Vexnaroth have built their entire strategy around opponents who behave this way. Tyler pulled up a new tactical plan. So we do not act like prey. We act like competing predators defending territory. We make them chase us and we lead them exactly where we want them to go. The plan was simple but required precise execution. The human diplomatic ship, supported by 5 Concordat vessels, would approach the Vexnaroth fleet at the most recently attacked colony. They would appear to be a weak target, undermanned and unprepared. The Vexnaroth would do what predators do. They would chase what looked like easy prey. Nina was on the bridge of the human ship as they approached the colony world. The Vexnaroth fleet detected them immediately. 30 massive warships turned toward the small human group. Communication channels filled with Vexnaroth battle cries and threats. They are taking the bait, Ethan reported from the tactical station. All 30 ships breaking formation to pursue us. Good, Nina said calmly. Begin the retreat. Make it look panicked but not completely disorganized. We want them confident. The human ship and its escorts turned and ran, but not in a straight line. Nina had plotted a course that weaved through asteroid fields, passed close to planetary gravity wells, and used every navigational obstacle to slow the pursuit without losing it completely. The Vexnaroth followed, probably enjoying what they thought was a terrified prey fleeing in panic. For 3 hours the chase continued. The Vexnaroth fired weapons, but the human ships stayed just out of effective range. Every time the enemy closed the distance, the human group would use some terrain feature to gain a little separation. They were not escaping. They were leading. Just like the hunt simulation, Tyler said, watching the tactical display. We do not need to be faster. We just need to be persistent. The Vexnaroth ships showed signs of frustration. Their formation became looser as individual captains tried to cut off the fleeing humans. They stopped coordinating and started competing with each other for the kill. Classic predator behavior when prey seemed close to capture. Nina guided them through a dense asteroid cluster and out the other side into open space. Now, she said quietly. The remaining 10 Concordat ships dropped out of hiding, having positioned themselves perfectly during the 3-hour chase. But they did not attack the Vexnaroth directly. Instead, they formed a sphere around the enemy fleet and began broadcasting on all frequencies. The broadcasts were sounds recorded from the hunt simulation, human footsteps, steady and unending. Human voices communicating in calm, coordinated patterns. The sounds of persistent pursuit that never stopped, never tired, never gave up. And mixed with these sounds were new recordings. Vexnaroth distress calls that the humans had captured and modified. The psychological effect was immediate. The Vexnaroth fleet, which moments before had been aggressively chasing prey, suddenly found themselves surrounded by sounds that triggered deep instinctual responses. They were no longer the hunters. They were being hunted. Nina's voice came over the open channel, speaking in carefully translated Vexnaroth. You came to Concordat space thinking you were apex predators. You were wrong. We are humans. We score 9.1 on the Predator Index. You score 6.8. We have tracked you for 3 hours without stopping. We have led you into our kill zone. And now you will understand what it means to be prey. The Concordat ships did not need to fire many shots. The Vexnaroth fleet broke formation immediately, ships scattering in panic as they tried to escape the surrounding forces. But everywhere they turned, they encountered human coordination and Concordat firepower working in perfect synchronization. The humans did not chase individual ships. They herded the entire fleet like ancient hunters herding animals toward a cliff edge. Within 20 minutes, the Vexnaroth fleet retreated at maximum speed, abandoning the colony worlds they had attacked. Their communications were filled with confusion and fear. They had never encountered an opponent that thought like they did but executed better. Back on Concordat Station, Velcross stood in the command center watching the tactical displays in disbelief. The Vex Naruth were fleeing. Not retreating strategically but running in pure panic. And they had done so without the Concordat suffering significant casualties. Ziara stood beside him, her 6 eyes fixed on the screen showing Nina's calm face. "Do you understand now?" the Carthol Predator asked. The Predator Index was not wrong. Humans score highest not because they are the most vicious or the strongest. They score highest because they combine every predatory advantage and add intelligence on top. They can think like prey to understand what prey will do, and they can think like predators to know how to hunt. But most importantly, they can choose when to hunt and what to hunt for. Velcross watched as human ships coordinated the safe return of Concordat vessels. They hunted the Vex Naruth away from our colonies. No, Zichara corrected. They hunted a solution to your problem. There is a difference. When Nina returned to the station, Velcross met her in the docking bay. His mandibles were still, his posture respectful rather than fearful. "Dr. Cole, the Concordat Security Council has made a decision regarding humanity's Predator Index classification." Nina waited, unsure what to expect. "We are creating a new category," Velcross continued. "Guardian Predators. You score highest on the index not because you evolved to kill, but because you evolved to protect. You have all the capabilities of an apex predator, but you choose to use them for defense rather than conquest." Nina felt something release in her chest, a tension she had been carrying since the first alarm sounded days ago. "Thank you, Director. That means a great deal." Zichara approached, moving with her characteristic deadly grace. She extended one clawed hand toward Nina in a human gesture of respect. "You taught me something, human. Being the greatest predator is not about being the most dangerous. It is about knowing when to hunt and when to protect. Your score is higher than mine because you understand this. I am still learning." Nina shook the massive claw carefully. "We can learn from each other's. That is why we came here." Tyler joined them, his diplomatic smile returning. "So, Director Velcross, does this mean humanity's application for Concordat membership is approved?" Velcross made a sound that the translator rendered as amused clicking. "Ambassador Brooks, after what we witnessed today, I think the more accurate question is whether the Concordat is worthy of having humans as members. Welcome to the galactic community. We are honored to have guardian predators watching over us."